Johnny Depp's journey from a struggling guitarist in Kentucky to one of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars is no accident. Behind the pirate hats, eccentric roles, and decades of box office dominance lies a hidden truth. He didn't walk this path alone. At 62, Depp himself admits that six extraordinary figures shaped not just his career, but his very identity as an actor. Some offered him his first break, others gave him the freedom to experiment, and a few became lifelong allies who protected him when Hollywood was ready to cast him aside. Tonight, we're going back in time to uncover the six mentors who transformed Johnny Depp from an unknown dreamer into the global icon we know today. From legendary directors who saw genius in his strangeness, to rock stars who taught him rebellion, to actors who became unlikely teachers, this is the untold story of how mentorship forged a star. These are the six mentors who made Johnny Depp. Before Johnny Depp ever set foot on a Hollywood set, he was just a 20-year-old kid with a guitar and no clear plan. He had moved to Los Angeles chasing music, not movies, playing in small clubs, trying to survive. But fate stepped in through an unlikely friend, Nicolas Cage. At the time, Cage was already making waves as one of the most intriguing young actors in Hollywood, coming from the legendary Coppola family. A mutual acquaintance introduced Depp to Cage, and it was Cage who first looked at Depp and said, "You should try acting." Depp was skeptical. He had no training, no desire for the spotlight. But Cage insisted, even setting him up with his own agent. That introduction changed everything. Thanks to Cage's push, Depp landed his very first audition for Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984. He wasn't supposed to be the star, he was just another fresh face hoping for a chance. But he walked away with a role that would launch his acting career. As Glenn, the doomed boyfriend of Heather Langenkamp's character, Depp made his screen debut in one of horror's most iconic films. For Depp, it wasn't just about getting a part. It was the moment someone in Hollywood took him seriously. Cage's mentorship gave him both confidence and opportunity. Without that nudge, Johnny Depp might still have been strumming guitars in LA clubs, forever unknown to the world. Depp would later say in interviews, "If it weren't for Nick, I probably wouldn't have had a career." It was Nicolas Cage who opened the first door, proving that sometimes one person's belief can alter the course of an entire life. If Nicolas Cage opened the door for Johnny Depp, it was Tim Burton who gave him the keys to Hollywood's kingdom. When Burton cast Depp in Edward Scissorhands in 1990, he did more than offer him a role, he handed him an identity. At that time, Depp was trapped in teen idol status from 21 Jump Street. He was handsome, marketable, and adored by millions of young fans, but Depp hated it. He didn't want to be the poster boy. He wanted to be an actor. Burton saw what no one else did. To the studios, Depp was just a pretty face. To Burton, he was a blank canvas capable of bringing strange, misunderstood outsiders to life. Edward Scissorhands was the perfect test. A character who barely spoke, but whose entire soul could be felt through his eyes. Depp poured himself into the role, channeling both his own isolation and his quiet rebellion against Hollywood's shallow mold. The result was unforgettable. From there, Burton and Depp became one of the most iconic duos in cinema. Together they created Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Sweeney Todd, and more. Each film allowed Depp to reinvent himself, to escape the trap of being typecast, and to fully embrace his eccentric style. Burton trusted Depp when studios doubted him, and Depp gave Burton performances that elevated his gothic imagination. Their partnership was not just professional, it was deeply personal. Depp once described Burton as more than a collaborator. He called him a brother. The loyalty between them was rare in Hollywood, a place where alliances often crumble overnight. Without Tim Burton, Depp may have faded as just another television star turned movie hopeful. Instead, he became an artist defined by risk, mystery, and transformation. It was Burton's belief in the odd, the strange, and the misunderstood that gave Johnny Depp the freedom to show the world who he really was. By the mid-1990 seconds, Johnny Depp was already carving out his image as Hollywood's eccentric outsider. But it was the legendary Marlon Brando who became both a mentor and a spiritual guide at a time when Depp needed grounding the most. The two first met while working on the quirky comedy Don Juan DeMarco in 1994. Depp was in his early 30s, still defining himself as an actor. Brando, by then a towering figure of cinema, had nothing left to prove. Yet instead of keeping distance, Brando embraced Depp, offering him wisdom that went beyond acting. Brando recognized in Depp a kindred spirit, an artist who despised fame circus. He warned him early about Hollywood's traps, the tabloids, the obsession with money, and the false friends who come with success. "Don't let them own you," Brando told him. It was advice Depp carried for decades. Their bond quickly grew into friendship. Depp would often visit Brando at his home, where they would talk for hours about art, family, and the fleeting nature of celebrity. Brando encouraged Depp to slow down, to choose roles for passion rather than profit, and to protect his privacy fiercely. For a man who was often overwhelmed by Hollywood's glare, Depp found in Brando not just a mentor, but a father figure. When Brando passed away in 2004, Depp described it as losing a guiding light. He said Brando taught him lessons not found in scripts or sets, but in life itself. The wisdom of the man once called the greatest actor of all time had been passed to a younger rebel determined to follow his own strange path. It's no coincidence that after Brando's influence, Depp's career choices became bolder, stranger, and less concerned with mainstream approval. Brando had given him permission to be free, and that freedom became Depp's signature. If Marlon Brando gave Johnny Depp wisdom, Hunter S. Thompson gave him fire. The notorious journalist, author of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, was more than a mentor, he was a partner in rebellion. Their friendship began in the mid-1990 seconds, when Depp was cast to play Thompson's alter ego, Raoul Duke, in the film adaptation of Fear and Loathing. To prepare, Depp moved into Thompson's Colorado ranch, living side by side with the writer, absorbing his speech, mannerisms, and legendary eccentricities. What began as research quickly became brotherhood. Thompson taught Depp not just about gonzo journalism, but about fearlessness. Thompson's life was a manifesto against conformity, loud, chaotic, unapologetic. And that spirit rubbed off on Depp. He learned that art wasn't about pleasing audiences, but about tearing down walls, exposing hypocrisy, and doing it with style. Their relationship went far beyond the film. They drank together, laughed together, and became inseparable comrades. Thompson once said Depp was the only actor crazy enough to truly capture his spirit, and Depp responded by protecting Thompson's legacy fiercely. When Thompson died in 2005, Depp paid for his mentor's funeral, which included blasting his ashes out of a cannon, a send-off as wild as the man himself. From Thompson, Depp inherited more than a role. He embraced the courage to be outrageous, to take risks that might confuse Hollywood executives, but would electrify audiences. Thompson showed him that scandal wasn't always something to avoid. Sometimes it was the very tool an artist needed to carve his place in history. Every time Depp leaned into chaos, every time he chose a role that defied logic, Hunter S. Thompson's influence could be felt. Their bond was built on madness, yes, but also on freedom, and that freedom became one of the cornerstones of Depp's career. By the early 2010s, Johnny Depp was already an established star, but he was about to enter the role that would define him for a generation: Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean. The swagger, the slurred speech, the mischievous grin, audiences had never seen anything like it. But what many didn't realize at the time was that Sparrow was born from Depp's admiration of one of his real-life heroes, Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Depp had long idolized Richards, not just for his music, but for his spirit. Richards embodied rebellion, chaos, and charm all rolled into one. When Depp was developing Jack Sparrow, he didn't base the character on traditional pirate lore. Instead, he asked himself, what if Keith Richards was a pirate? The result was one of the most iconic characters in modern cinema. The connection didn't end there. Richards himself became aware of Sparrow's origins and loved it. He eventually joined the franchise, playing Jack Sparrow's father, Captain Teague, in Pirates of the Caribbean, at World's End. Their on-screen chemistry was a celebration of the bond between actor and idol. But Richards gave Depp more than inspiration for a role. He gave him a model for survival. Richards had endured decades of fame, scandal, and near self-destruction. Yet he remained unbreakable, still performing with fire in his 70s. For Depp, watching Richards thrive through chaos was proof that you could live on your own terms and still endure. Depp has often said that Richards taught him how to walk the fine line between excess and endurance. And in a way, Captain Jack Sparrow is more than a character. It's a tribute to the man who showed Depp that rebellion could be art, and that style could be as powerful as substance. By the late 1990 seconds, Johnny Depp had already worked with some of the most imaginative directors and wildest personalities in Hollywood, but nothing compared to the gravitas of sharing the screen with Al Pacino in Donnie Brasco, 1997. For Depp, this was not just another film, it was an education in acting from one of the greatest performers alive. Pacino, known for The Godfather, Scarface, and countless iconic roles, carried with him an aura of mastery. On set, Depp observed Pacino like a student studying a master painter. He learned how Pacino built characters from silence, how he used pauses and glances as weapons, and how every line of dialogue carried weight when delivered with conviction. In Donnie Brasco, Depp played an undercover FBI agent who infiltrates the mafia, while Pacino played Lefty, a weary, low-level mobster. The dynamic between them was electric. Depp later admitted that acting alongside Pacino was intimidating at first, but Pacino quickly took him under his wing. He offered advice not through lectures, but through example, demonstrating the discipline, patience, and subtlety that elevated an actor from good to legendary. Depp has often described Donnie Brasco as a turning point in his career. The mentorship he absorbed from Pacino gave him the confidence to go toe-to-toe with giants. It showed him that even amidst chaos and eccentricity, there was a craft, a discipline that made performances timeless. Al Pacino gave Depp something that no wild rock star or rebellious writer could: a respect for the craft of acting itself. If Hunter S. Thompson taught him freedom, and Keith Richards taught him rebellion, Pacino reminded him that true greatness also requires control. And in that balance, Depp found the key to roles that would define his artistry for decades. Johnny Depp's career has always looked like a storm, chaotic, unpredictable, and larger than life. But when we peel back the layers, we find a pattern: 6 extraordinary figures who shaped his journey at every turn. Nicolas Cage opened the first door, turning a musician into an actor. Tim Burton gave him the freedom to embrace the strange and the misunderstood. Marlon Brando offered wisdom, teaching him how to survive Hollywood without losing his soul. Hunter S. Thompson gave him rebellion, igniting the wild edge that would define so many of his choices. Keith Richards showed him how to endure, how to turn rebellion into legend, and how to transform chaos into charm. And finally, Al Pacino taught him discipline, reminding him that beneath every eccentric performance lies the quiet mastery of craft. At 62, Johnny Depp is not just the sum of his roles. He is the reflection of the mentors who shaped him: the rebels, the artists, the icons, the friends. Each left an imprint, and together they created a mosaic of influences that turned a shy Kentucky kid into one of the most enduring figures in Hollywood history. Perhaps that's the true lesson of Depp's story. Greatness is never built alone. Even the most unique stars stand on the shoulders of giants, carrying with them the guidance, love, and inspiration of those who came before. Which of these 6 mentors do you think had the greatest impact on Johnny Depp's career? Was it the wild chaos of Hunter S. Thompson, the gothic vision of Tim Burton, or the grounded wisdom of Marlon Brando? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey, make sure to subscribe to Faded Crowns for more untold legacies, hidden scandals, and the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to know. Because behind every crown, there's always a storm.